time, I'd like to call the regular Anderson County Council meeting of June 19th to order. This time, I'd like to ask the Honorable Councilman Greg Wooten could lead us in an invocation and pledge allegiance. Will all rise, please?
Yes, if we could bow together. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for bringing us here tonight. Lord, I pray for your discernment and wisdom as we speak about the budget and the matters affecting our county. I pray that you bless us in the way that we speak to each other and how we make decisions, and that we realize that it affects people and not just numbers, God. I pray that you lead us tonight in your will. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty
and justice for all. Are there any changes or corrections we made to the minutes of the regular council meeting of June the 5th? Not received, I'm sorry. We'll take care of that next time. This time, before we go on item 4, I'd just like to recognize, I believe our librarian, Miss Faith Line, is here. I want to kudos to her. I think she just received the award from the Chamber of Commerce last week, and our library just got some award here back a couple of months ago. So we appreciate the fine work and what all you do, and we're very lucky to have you, Miss Line. Thank you very much. Let's all give her a big hand. Thank you for being here. Moving on now, we're going citizens' comments. As Mr. Harmon, attorney, calls your name, you have 3 minutes on agenda matters. At this time, please state your name and district for the record and address the chair.
Mr. Chairman, we have one citizen signed up, Elizabeth Fant.
Thanks, sir.
Elizabeth Fant, District 3. I'm referring to number 6 and number 8, both on budget. I wasn't able to come to the budget workshop you had. Glad to see you finally had one. That is one thing that does concern me about the budget process this year. I've heard somebody say, well, you can come to any of the meetings you want to, and any of us can. But I get those announcements from Miss Lacey. I get those announcements from Miss Lacey about different committee meetings, and in no way have any of those meetings up until this one said anything about budget. Now, you may be discussing items that have to do with capital projects or other issues that affect the budget, but you're not telling the people that those are budget meetings. And this is the first year that we've done the budget this way. I know it saved you all a lot of time, and I know Mr. Dunn will say, oh, well, you can call anybody you want to and ask any question you want to. But the whole thing about government process is supposed to be that we do it out in the open. And we do it when the constituents can hear what is going on, and not that it's already decided in a committee and then brought forth. And as Mr. Dunn will say, if it came from the Finance Committee or if it came from the so-and-so committee, it needs no second. We're the second. We're the ones that need to approve it. So I'm going to be watching tonight to see what's in the budget.
No one else has signed up.
Thank you, Mr. Harmon. Moving on to item number 5, then and now, Ms. Floyd.
Thank you. I'm going to speak on the last council meeting. We don't have our minutes. And I tried to get the secretary to find it, but she was unable to do so. But it was a comment that was made at the last council meeting about the previous council had almost left Anderson County in bankrupt or the previous county left Anderson County in bankruptcy, or something that the previous county did to get Anderson County close to bankruptcy. At the last council meeting, Mrs. Wilson made a statement that I objected to. That statement was that the previous council had left, or whatever else I just said, the county bankrupt. I disagreed with her assessment at that meeting. I told her so. And tonight I want to elaborate a little more on that topic. I will demonstrate that Anderson County was not near bankruptcy and during that period of time. And I can't not just sit there as I was on council at that time and not say anything. That's a total untruth. I can't do that to the people of Anderson County. I can't do it to my constituency, and I can't do it to myself. I will demonstrate with facts, not just opinions, that Anderson County was not near bankruptcy at that period of time. In fact, Anderson County was not near bankruptcy then, not now, and likely will not be in the future. Anderson County has had a very stable and secure financial past and is likely to continue to have firm financial footing. To make my point, I did some long, hard researching. I researched some old financial information. I researched with people. I researched with, my research also include people who are in the county at this particular time. This information is available to anyone on the county's website and comes from the published audited financial statements. Again, these are published facts, not conjectures, not my opinion, but facts. First, when you use the word bankrupt, that means you are unable to pay your bills. It means that your liabilities exceed your access. It means, in simple terms, that you are broke. Anderson County was not broke then, nor is it broke now. The first fact I want to talk about is the county's fund balance. Fund balance means the difference about liabilities. It could be construed to mean the net worth of the county. At June the 30th, 2008, the county had a fund balance of $40,347,875. I'm going to repeat that. June 30th, 2008, the county had a fund balance of $40,347,875. In case you want to see this for yourself, you can go to the June 30th, 2017 website, and this information can be found on page 31. On page 31, that's 131. On page 131, you will find a table that lists the county's fund balance for the past 10 fiscal years. My point is that you, the county, cannot be bankrupt or near bankrupt with $40 million of fund balance, can they? The second fact I want you to know about is about something called net position. Net position is a calculation that is used to show changes in the county's financial position. It is a useful indicator of governmental's financial condition. Going back to the same day, June the 30th, 2008, the county's net position was increased by $5,709,978. This is all calculated by taking all the revenues of the government and subtracting all the expenses. Again, you cannot be bankrupt when your revenues exceed your expense by over $5.7 million. You can find this information on 128 to 130 in the audited financial statement. The last fact I wish to discuss is this. This county has been issued a clean or modified audit opinion for every year that I have been on council. That's 19 years, folks. That's 19 years that I have been on council that this council have received a clean audit. I believe that if Anderson County was bankrupt, going bankrupt, or had been close to bankruptcy, then the county would not have earned these clean audit opinions all these years. If there was evidence of bankruptcy, the auditors would have expressed that in the audit report. To close, I again say and support it with facts that Anderson County was not broke and was not bankrupt while the previous council was seated. What I have presented tonight is based on fact and not off-the-cuff remarks and rambling. Look for yourself. Go to these financial websites that I had to go through. Go through your trash cans if you have trash related to Anderson County and its auditor, as I have. And I think you will come to the undeniable conclusion that Anderson County was in excellent financial health then and health now. There is no conflict, folks, between the old and the new. The conflict is between liars, people who use the meetings as a platform to say things that they know aren't true, but they say them anyway to convince you that they know what they're talking about. The conflict is between the false and the true, and I thank you.
Moving to item number 6, report from the Administrator's Policy and Rules Committee, which is the Personnel Committee, held June 12, 2018. Chairman Allen. Chairman Allen?
All right, yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. As most of you know, we've had a survey done here over the past several months in the county by an outside personnel firm to look at where we stand as far as our personnel policies, pay scales, vacation time, etc. And there are about 6 major points that came up in this survey, and these are things that we on the Personnel Committee are going to be looking at and working on to see how we can rectify some of the problems in order to bring us into balance with other surrounding counties of our same size and population, as well as with the private industry. So one of the first things we looked at, of course, was the salary market adjustments. And in other words, what they did was they went out here and looked at the counties around us. They also looked at private industry. They weighted this 60% of their evaluation was based on the county's pay, in other words, counties around us, and 40% of the weight was based on what private industry is paying. So in other words, if the county has a truck driver and a private industry has a truck driver doing exactly the same thing, what's the pay scale look like? So we're looking at that now to see what kind of adjustments we may need to make on that. And in most cases of all of the various fields of labor, if you will, that were looked at, the county tended to be somewhat below what the civilian, I'll call it civilian side of the house is paying. Old military coming out in me, can't help it. The next thing we looked at was the employee evaluations. There are supposed to be annual evaluations done on all employees. And I think in some cases that's kind of slipped over the years. I admit I don't like doing evaluations on people. It's a headache, and it's sometimes not a fun thing to do, but we have to have those done if we're going to make this process work so that we know how to promote people and whether somebody deserves a raise or not. So we've got to have those evaluations done, and we're looking at having those done by the end of July to have everybody up to date on their evaluations. Also, we're looking at, I was going to say, I forgot to mention one other thing on the salary adjustments. We hope to have those, well, we will have those in place 1 July. If the budget passes tonight, we'll have those in place 1 July. Job descriptions need to be updated. In order to do these annual evaluations, you've got to have a decent job description. And we found out we had a lot of job descriptions in this county that were duplicates in a way. You know, you'd have I'll use the truck driver again. In one department was called a truck driving engineer, and in another department that same truck driver was just called a truck driving laborer or something. It was the same thing. So we've reduced the number of job descriptions in the county, and those need to be made uniform and brought up to date. So that's another thing that we're working on. A question came up about retirees retaining years of service, and this is another thing that we're in discussion on. But let's say you retire from Anderson County, and you're off the payroll for 30 days, I think it is, and then you can come back to work. Where do you start? If you come back into the same job, for instance, should you start at the same salary with all the vacation build up? We're looking at this and saying, no. If you're going to retire and come back, you're going to start off at ground zero and work your way up. That's one of the things we're discussing. The Personnel Policy Handbook, the one I have is dated 1998, and I think there were maybe some adjustments made in early 2000s. But with all these things that we're doing here, we need to update the Personnel Policy Handbook so that people coming on board to work for the county will know exactly what they're getting into. And a final thing we're looking at is the possible modification to vacation, sick, and compensatory time going into the future. Right now, we allow people something like 460 hours of vacation build-up time towards retirement that you can get paid out for. Greenville County allows 240 hours. I think ours is 480 maybe, and theirs is 240. And we're looking at reducing ours down to 360, because what we're running into is people are not taking their vacation in many cases, which they should. You need that break time. You need to recharge the batteries. But also, all of a sudden, we get hit with a big bill because somebody is retiring and they've got 400 and some hours of vacation time, and we've got to then turn around and find $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 to pay them out for vacation. So our vacation policy here in the county is extremely lenient. Most organizations around, you get your vacation, and if you don't use it the year that you're eligible to use it, it's gone, and you start over again. So somewhere back in the past, this decision was made, and maybe at that time it was a good thing to do. I don't know what the economic situation was in Anderson County when this was done. I'm not saying anybody was terrible or did a really nasty thing. It's just that it may have been the thing to do at that time, but now we can't afford it. So those are some of the things that we're looking at. We're going to have more personnel committee meetings, and over the next couple of months we hope to have this settled. And we want to hear, I'm chairman of the personnel committee, I want to hear from employees too. I want to know what your opinion is. So with that, Mr. Chair.
Chairman, I believe.
Did I miss something? What, your pay raise?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Chairman, I believe the Personnel Committee made a recommendation to full council to implement the pay adjustments effective July 1st and do it half this year and half next year. So we need to make that recommendation. We need to make that, so that's coming from the Personnel Committee. It doesn't need a second. Now, open the floor for discussion.
Mr. Chair.
It's floor.
Okay. I was there when I was at the meeting when that suggestion was made. It was made quickly. It wasn't discussed. And then it was voted on by the committee to bring it to the council. I have a different opinion on that. Our folks have been down so long without an adequate raise. And this year we're going to do it. But to give them half of it this year and half of it next year would be a situation that's not good. Next year, you don't know what's going to go up higher. This year, they could use that money to get ahead a little bit, pay off some bills a little bit, and have a substantial income. Half this year won't do it. That's just like giving them what you've already given them in the past. Waiting until next year would call maybe for another impact on that same income. Maybe the insurance will go up again next year, or maybe gas will go up again next year. And you are depleting the impact of that insurance. I am recommending that we give the employees the pay raise that we said that they deserve all at one time, with a total of with a total of the growth that we expect for this year. I think that is going to be in the millions of dollars that we expect to bring in this year. I think that we could well afford it. Why would we want to give them half of it now and half of it next year when it won't make the same impact? Thank you.
You put that in form of a motion by amendment, Ms. Floyd?
Well, I can. I'll put that in the form of a motion that we give the employee their full raise this year.
Can we have a second?
I second that.
Second, Mr. Wooten. Now in discussion.
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Allen?
Yeah, I was going to, Mr. Harmon, is this, or Rita, are we, as far as the monetary aspect of this goes, are we good with half this year and half next year? Because I know there was a question about trying to find the money to do it all at once, but
take about approximately 2 more meal increase. How to implement all of it
okay.
discussed over.
Okay, so it would take another 2 mil increase to, if we were to try and do it all at once. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Wooten? Yeah, or Ms. Wilson, I'm sorry. Ms. Wilson.
Just a quick point that I need a little clarification on. We also had some employees that had been paid for a number of years far higher than...
That's not in this.
That's not in... Okay, thank you.
I have a question.
Is, wait a minute. Anybody else got anything? Go around here.
I guess my question
Ms.
is, you know, and this is where I do agree with Ms. Floyd, is, you know, we did a market study to say, you know, what in the market is the value of these people's jobs. And I see where it would be frustrating to say, you know, your market value is this, and we're going to pay it for you 24 months from now or 12 months from now. If that's what they're worth and that's the job they're doing, you know, if we do need to spread it over 2 years, I think it, you know, it would behoove us to look at, you know, will we go back and pay them what they're worth? I understand the budget constraints on it, but I also understand, you know, that there's a real life aspect of somebody who's working, and if they feel like they haven't been paid market pay or had cost of living adjustments in 10 years, that can be awfully frustrating.
Thank you, Mr. Wooten. We have had some adjustments over the last few years, in fact, maybe even last year. But when we started down this road, this process, hired this company, we said, and even the company, when you come in, fully understood we couldn't afford all this in 1 year. We just simply can't. So, doing the best we and we said do it in 2 years. Looking at all the, with the study group and Ms. Davis and her staff, 2 years would get us knocked behind. No more we'd be able to do it in 2 years. Ms. Floyd, you got a question?
Yes, I do. Thank you. Ms. Davis, would you please come back to the microphone? I have a question, please. Okay. Ms. Davis, we talked a lot today, and one of the things I asked you, well, what was the general fund balance for last year? You told me it was $66 million. My question, second question was, well, what do you project the general fund to be this year? You told me $71 million. I asked you, where does the money go, the $71 million? Would you please tell them what you told me, where the money goes?
I think you're talking about the total general fund budget.
Yeah. The $71 million that you projected that we could end up with.
Yes, ma'am. I think we're talking about general fund. It would, if the changes are implemented, we'd have a $79.3 million general fund, and we talked about using over $8 million of the fund balance. However, we said that we would have about 2.7 months of general fund balance left at 6/30/19 if we used every bit of that fund balance, which we never have. We budgeted, but due to fiscal constraint and revenue coming in better than anticipated. So I think that's what we talked about.
You told me that the money goes to different, you told me it goes to salaries, you told me that it goes to insurance, and you told me, I wish I had written all that down, but I remember salary and insurance And
Raises insurance, retirement increase. Yes,
yeah, and the
ma'am.
retirement. That's
5
what you told me that it goes through. But with all of that, 79, I said 71, but $79 million, that still would not give us enough to provide the employees, what they need. Is, every time somebody comes up and they give us a scratch of paper, we say, oh, you did a good job, I pat you on the back, and we just appreciate all the hard work that you do.
We got time,
But
overtime. Call for it.
I'll ask for another 5 minutes, please.
Ms. Floyd makes a motion to extend the time for 5 more minutes. Have a second.
Second.
Second, Mr. Waters. All in favor, show of hands. All opposed. So the motion carries. Mr. Waters, Mr. Allen, Mr. Floyd, Graham, Wooten, and Mr. Wilson in favor. Mr. Dunn opposes. Go ahead, Ms. Floyd.
Thank you. But when the time comes to show them the money, we can't do that. I just don't understand that. And the only thing I'm saying is that let's not do this to them. Let's give them what they need in order for some of them to get off of the poverty roll or the poverty list, and let's give those who deserve a good raise a good raise. Let's not play these games with our people that work so hard and that we appreciate so much. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman. Ms. Rader, I
Mr. Graham.
apologize. Correct me if I'm wrong. In the event we do the full salary adjustment this year, the only way we can do that is by millage increase, regardless of the money that Ms. Floyd's stating that
Yes,
we have. I mean, that money is spent, and
That's what I would recommend to council.
with understanding if we go into more, we're going to basically be dipping into the reserve.
Correct.
And it just like at home, you're basically dipping into what you've got sitting there just in case of emergency.
Savings account, that's correct.
Exactly. So in your recommendation, as finance manager, your recommendation would be for us not to do that unless we're willing to do a millage increase. Am I correct?
That's correct, sir.
Thank you for your expert opinion on that.
Mr.
Thank
Chairman?
you. Yes, ma'am.
Folks, we could have had a budget workshop as I had requested. This could have been discussed and worked out in a budget workshop. That's why you have these things. If the county needed a big old backhoe, they would get together, come up with the money to buy it. I've seen it done. But now all of a sudden, this is going to run us into another. Of course it is, because look at everything else you've got in the agenda. I mean, in the budget. And some things I just found out about yesterday. My fault. Everybody else's fault. But the thing is this. There is a way this could have been worked out if we had done what some like to call our due diligence and had the workshop, talked about the budget, get people in on the budget, talk to these department heads about the budget. I bet you money they would have been willing to cut back something for us to get the money to pay these people.
And may I?
Yes, ma'am.
It needs to be recognized that with our standing committees that were never appointed prior to 2009, and the ad hoc committees cover a world of subject matter, our county budget is composed of so many different components, everything from personnel to enterprise funds, infrastructure. It runs the gamut. We had a budget workshop after we had a chance for each committee to do their homework, and there was a lot of study that went on. So I will not complain about this other than there's some things that I might not vote for here. But there's been a lot of homework, and especially Mr. Allen and Mr. Graham should be commended for their hard work and the policy and salary work and the public safety. There's been so much that's been going on. There's been a lot of study on the capital projects that need to be done in the county. We're very blessed to be able to put up a new terminal and widen our runway. A lot of folks don't realize our airport, for example, is one of the busiest upstate airports. And we've had the benefit of about 6.5, almost 7 million in grants, and we took out about 3 million in fund balance to make those accomplishments. So it's not like you can go in and sit down for 2 or 3 hours and hammer all of this out at one time. I do appreciate taking it section by section so we can fully develop an understanding and get a lot of questions answered. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Mr. Graham.
I know we need to move on. Back to a couple of the comments. We have had multiple committee meetings that is made public. It is, I mean, naturally, when you're discussing capital improvements for the incoming year, naturally, that's considered budget items. As far as the personnel goes, number one, I am 100% support of our personnel in Anderson County. That is what makes the clock tick. That's what makes the world go around. That's what makes Anderson County what it is. It's basically the staff that we have working diligently on a daily basis. However, numerous times, and Miss Rita, she was involved in the personnel meeting along with some of the other council members. Numerous times we advised department heads, look at your budget, come back with some suggestions on what you can do. I am not a road and bridges expert. I did not say that when I was running for council. I'm not a finance expert. I'm literally here to hold these people accountable and ensure that we get the biggest bang for the buck. We literally have to take the information that is shared with us. We advise the department heads, cut your positions, cut what your wants are, and let's go with what our needs are. I know I've worked firsthand with Chef McBride. Him and Mark has done numerous cuts to get that in line where we can basically afford to move on with this budget without impacting these same people that works for Anderson County that we're trying to give a raise for, that we're going to impact them on a tax increase if we're not careful. In a nutshell, we have come down to the wire on this. We have met numerous meetings, time in, time out, and we're basically where we are today. I would love to say let's give every one of our employees a raise at once. We cannot afford to do that unless we're going to do a mill increase. So the question is, do we want to do a millage increase, or do we want to do it half this year and half next year? Yesterday, budget workshop that we were not going to have, but yet we had a budget workshop yesterday. I apologize. When I got home, I scratched my head and wondered if we got anything accomplished, because I don't think we did. However, we did do a budget workshop yesterday. Last night, I'm sure, I know several other council members was up to 12:30, 1 o'clock looking at budgets, trying to take some last-minute cuts. Yesterday, we was at 2 mills. I think we're less than that today, due to some cuts that that's going to be proposed here shortly. We've done the best we can do, but the question on the personnel is, do we want to do a millage increase to pass that salary adjustment all in 1 year? It's not whether or not our employees is worth it. It's whether or not the county can afford it.
Mr. Harmon's time.
You're over the 5 minutes.
Okay. We voting on.
May I ask for another extension, please, whether or not I get it, but may I ask for another extension, because this is important.
You can. Ask for it.
Okay, I know what that means, but
Yep.
anyway, I will ask for another extension so we can continue to discuss this.
You gonna put time on it?
I would like to put 10 minutes on it, please.
Got a motion, Ms. Floyd, to extend this 10 minutes. Have a second?
That's what I thought.
Have a second? I would like a motion. Now vote on Ms. Floyd's motion. All in favor of Ms. Floyd's motion, show hands.
I knew that, y'all.
All opposed? So Ms. Floyd's motion fails. In favor of Ms. Floyd, opposed Mr. Waters, Mr. Alley, Mr. Dunn, Mr. Graham, Mr. Wooten, and Ms. Wilson. Now on back. Effective July 1st, half this year, and some of them will be a little bit more than half, but that's the whole, it's the whole big picture of thing. Half of it this year, half of it next year. All in favor of the motion, show hands. All opposed? So the motion carries. Mr. Waters, Mr. Allen, Mr. Dunn, Mr. Graham, Mr. Wooten, Mr. Wilson in favor, and Ms. Floyd opposes. Moving on to item number 7, report from the Capital Projects Committee, Chairman Graham.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As far as on the capital projects request, basically what we've came down to as far as the committee's recommendation to full council is as far as on the roofs, we're looking at doing the Clydestone building, the Meals on Wheels building, which is the old McCants, that section of the roof over it. There's actually about $35,000 to $40,000 that's going to be left after these two roofs are completed, and our hopes is to be able to utilize that money toward the economic developments building roof. That comes with a full recommendation from that committee that we approve that. As far as on the recommendations from Ms. Rita, do you want to cover the rest of the capital projects, or do you want? I know we've made some changes today, but I think all that is still
good. What we talked about today was we're going to issue a $5.3 million lease. That'll, of course, come back before the council. And then we are wanting a 1 mil increase. And in order to get that other mill, that we'll need to have a steady, uniform replacement plan for Joseph Stone, our fleet manager. We have cut some items in the general fund that we will share with the council. And then we have about $815,000 of what we call capital cash, our other equipment. Included in that are 7 new vehicles for the sheriff's, 7 new officers. We have 1 for Parks and Rec. We have 1 for the new building and grounds. When I say replacement plan for Mr. Stone, that's truly replacement vehicles and equipment. That 5.3 will last him over 2 years. And by the time we get to our 3rd year, the property tax revenue will match that, and so you have $2,250,000 for 6 years that he can use for replacement only. And let's see, what else we have in that? We provided for the debt service. We have $1.6 million for the financial management software in there. Of course, carryover from the new courthouse roof we have to do. We have our $3.5 million for the terminal. $250,000, like you said, for ground roof. And that would.
Ms. Davis, in a nutshell, this will be coming out of the recommendation coming from the committee would be sliding 2 mills, wherever they come from, over to Mr. Stone for him to start a replacement plan.
That's right. One mill from general fund, 1 mill.
That's right, but it's 2 mills, partners. Then we got that'll be voted on later where it's coming from. That's right.
That's right. Any other questions?
So, Mr. Chairman, with that being said, as far as in the meeting, there's been some changes. So, with that recommendation, I think we'd need to do a motion and a second.
Well, I think, if I'm not mistaken, our recommendation was that committee was the two mills slide over
to commit that.
Then we will, during the budget process, where that's coming from. We're just committing 2 mills for our capital project. That was the recommendation. Not much, so much less item by item where that would be spent on. That would have to come back to full council as it's been done anyway. Yeah.
The capital project and the other things that have been discussed, that was going to represent a 2 mil increase as of our budget meeting yesterday. And what you'll propose during our budget discussion will reduce it by 1 mil.
I think the staff, and talking to staff today, Ms. Wilson, that's exactly right.
Okay.
But regardless of whatever, this is recommendation to get that capital project thing going, sliding 2 mills. He has no millage now. It's put 2 mills over there for him to get.
All right, so do we vote on the capital projects list now, or do we wait until the budget process,
Like,
the
vote on it.
budget third reading
Vote
to
on-
reduce
vote on
some
it.
of that?
Vote on it now. If you don't like it when the budget, we won't vote for it. You know, the budget would call, make changes during the budget process.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, have you put this on the floor for discussion yet? I don't think that you have put it.
No, I haven't.
I didn't think you had.
I'm trying to get some trying to get some clarification here for them. They got a right for that, so I'm giving them a little latitude to get some clarification. Mr. Graham,
So, Mr.
got the floor.
Mr. Chairman, with that being said, the committee did recommend that we did follow through with the capital and ensuring that Stone and them would have the funding for the plan that he had in place on the vehicles. And the committee did vote on that for 100% support to bring forward to full council with their recommendation.
Thank you. Now discussion.
Um,
Move forward.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Folks, I owe you an apology. I owe my constituency an apology because I did not know about this 2 mil increase until yesterday. You didn't know about it until today. So from my point of it, I owe you an apology. And let me tell you why. I have been so busy with the budget trying to fight for information. I don't hear everything everybody else hears. I have been busy with the budget trying to get some money in there for the Y, who will work with any and every child in Anderson County. I have been so busy trying to get some money in the rec fund, in our rec account, because we don't have enough money anymore to go around. The population is now 198,000 people, and you can double that with children. We have more organizations now working with children. We need a bigger recreation fund. I have been so busy working, trying to get the employees what they needed. A meeting I sat in a meeting with our financial advisor, our financial person. We went over this list. She said, oh yeah, then these are our capital projects here. Not one time was it said, we're asking for an increase in millage. It was never said. I call our administrator every chance I get, and I always say, is there anything I need to be aware of that's happening in the county? No, everything's quiet. Nothing has been said to me about a tax mill increase. I asked our county person, our council, to please let's have a budget workshop. And if we had a budget workshop yesterday, then it was illegal. Because once you vote not to do something, you can't go back, chairman can't go back and say, oh yeah, we're gonna do it. So if that was a budget workshop yesterday, then it was an illegal meeting. But never did anybody in this whole place, I'm just as guilty, saw anything in there about the millage being increased. Now, I would have tried to support that because I know how important it is. I know what Stone has to do as far as keeping us on the road, all the vehicles on the road. I know that over 6 years, this could be something that could really have helped us. But during it, I would have liked to have had the opportunity to discuss other ways this may or could have been done. I would have liked to not be shut out. This man said all you have to do is come to the meeting. Well, darn it, that means that I would be going to a meeting every day of my life, 2 and 3 meetings. He only has to go, well, he's over everything. He would be there a lot, but not as much as I would have had to be there to attend all of the meetings I need to go to. I asked for a budget workshop. They wouldn't even do that. What were they hiding? The 2 mil? 2 mil increase? Did you hear about it until today? No. You didn't know about it until Anderson Independent printed it this morning. I knew yesterday. Is that why we couldn't have a budget workshop? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I want to clarify the committee's recommendation due to it being some misunderstanding apparently. The 2 mills that we're recommended is basically allotting Stone the opportunity to basically follow through and along with the other capital improvements requests. We're not recommending that we increase any millage from the committee.
That's right.
So I just wanted to clarify that.
All in favor of the motion from the committee, show of hands. All opposed, like sign. So the motion carried. Mr. Waters, Mr. Allen, Mr. Dunn, Mr. Graham, Mr. Wooten, Ms. Wilson in favor, Ms. Floyd opposes. Moving on to item number 8, budget concerns, Ms. Floyd.
Okay. All right. Again, I asked for a budget workshop. Not only for me, but for you too. There are some people out there that would have appreciated knowing what's going on with their council. What's happening? It was said something about the previous council. We had a budget workshop every year. Some of you may have remember going to the museum because we had them there. We had a budget workshop every year. And every year, you knew what was going to be in what you're going to be paying taxes on before it hits the newspaper. I'm not saying that was good. I'm not saying it was bad. I'm not talking about which one had it and which one didn't. I'm talking about being fair, being giving the taxpayers what they are supposed to get. They're supposed to know what's going on in the budget. It's their money. They're supposed to be at the table when we are discussing these things. They're supposed to have time to go to a public hearing. You had a public hearing. It was the craziest thing I ever heard. We had a public hearing here, but nobody knew anything at all about the budget. We didn't know anything about the budget. But we had a public hearing. What were you supposed to say? They didn't give you an opportunity to say anything. Why? Why, folks? Why aren't you here at these meetings? Why don't you ask your council people what's going on? How come we don't know anything? Anderson County, wake up. It's not supposed to be like this. The 2 mil is a tax increase. I don't care what you try to fix it up to be. I don't care what you try to fix it up to be. You're going to get a 2 mil tax increase to pay for what we need. 2 mils. Folks, you need to take your matters in your hands. These people they don't lord over you. They're supposed to do what you ask them to do. Are they doing that? Are you satisfied? Are you satisfied? I don't see how you can be. I wouldn't be. And not because I'm sitting up here. I wouldn't be because I don't have a voice. I represent 22,000+ people, but I don't have a voice. I went to the capital project meeting, the capital meeting. You should have been there. You should have been there. The question was asked, how do you think we ought to pay the salary? Half now, half later, all in one. You knew it was discussed because the hand flew up. I think that we ought to go ahead and pay one year and then the next year. No discussion, no thinking went into it, just hands straight up, loud and clear. Wasn't even a discussion. Is this what you go to the poll and vote for? Is this what you want your council, your county council who represents you to do? It's not fair. It's not right. Now, listen, now you may have some issues with me. I've got some issues with me too. But the thing is, right is right. Wrong is wrong. We got to get it together, folks. We got to get it together. I have something else I'm researching, but I won't go into it at this time. But as far as, the other day I was talking about in this budget, whatever it was a meeting, and I'm gonna file a complaint because Mr. Lawyer, it was an illegal meeting. We voted against it. And once you vote against something, you can't just go ahead and say, we're gonna do anything. But I mentioned that we needed to have 5,000 more for our recreational account. I sat here and add it all up. That would be 40,000. Yeah, what's 40,000 compared to everything else and those two tax bills that I keep hearing about? But what happened was my fault. I saw it on there, but I didn't question it. Next time, I won't be I won't be so trusting. I'll question everything, even the comma and the period. It was the finance department's fault for not bringing that up. It was the council's fault. It's the administration's fault. Because when I ask him what's happening in the county, is there anything I need to be aware of? And he tells me no. It was the council's fault. I asked for a workshop, no. And it's your fault. Because you sit there, meeting after meeting, if you come and you don't say nothing. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
But on item number 9, ordinance third reading, a 2018-012 ordinance to amend the agreement for the development of a joint county industrial park, business park, 2010 park of Anderson and Greenville counties, as well as enlarge the park. Be a public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak this matter, please step forward and state your name, district, address, chair. Anyone at all? Seeing here none, public hearing to be closed. We have a motion to move this forward on third reading.
So moved.
Motion, Mr. Waters, second, Ms. Wilson. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, show hands. Opposed, like sign, so the motion carries unanimously. Moving on to item number B, 2018-016 ordinance to adopt the operating capital budget for Anderson County for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2018 and ending June 30th, 2019. Before we go on to public hearing, I want to ask Ms. Davis, you would come, Ms. Davis, and bring up recommendations.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. After much discussion and budget workshops and input from council, we're pleased to present the budget for your consideration. The general fund, as we stated, will be about $79.3 million. Total budget will be south of almost 200. Of course, keep in mind that's a lot of grant money involved, your sewer, solid waste, all funds, as pointed out. And we did have, those changes that we need to advise council.
That's right.
Before you vote.
And the new recommendations of the new cuts, staff's recommendation.
Studies?
Yeah, the new cuts.
Yes.
The cuts. You got them, staff got, the council got them?
No, sir.
Let's give it to council.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Davis, does this also contain? Yeah. Okay, thank you.
council looks over this, we're going to a public hearing now for anyone wishing to speak on the budget. Please step forward and state your name and district and address the chair. One and all. Seeing here none, public hearing to be closed. We have a motion to get this on the floor. We discuss it.
So moved.
Motion, Mr. Waters. Second, Mr. Allen. Now discussion. Ms. Davis, would you go over first and foremost, led you to get this to the changes you come up with today? The council just now seeing these on these cuts.
Yes, sir, I'd be happy to. That second sheet I handed out, it has the recommendation from yesterday's budget workshop to add 5,000 to each district recreation account. There's a consensus that we want to call that special projects. That's on page 2 at the top, and that would be lines 32 to 41 and the next 2 items. So that would add $5,000. Keep in mind, you typically get 30 now, and then so that would be $35,000 annually for each council member. There also was talk about not decreasing the Y. So on the page 2 still, we have added on, you'll see line 47 out to the left, we added 5,000 back to the Y. However, we have taken it out of 2,500 out of District 1's rec and 2,500 out of District 5 to basically offset that $5,000 addition.
May I make a suggestion?
Yes, ma'am.
On the recreation account, it might work better if any district that has less than $1,000 in balance carry forward, they should get the $5,000, and those that have a larger amount carry forward would not need it since they've not used that money.
Quickly up you to make a, perfectly in your right to make a motion to do that, Ms. Wilson.
I'll make the motion.
Ms. Wilson, would you state it again for just for everybody to get it?
Any district that has less than $1,000 carry forward unspent in this budget year, they would get the $5,000. But anyone who had above $1,000 to carry forward, they would not need it because they have unspent funds.
Ms. Wilson puts that forward motion. We have a second. Have a second. Dies for lack of a second, Ms. Wilson. Now, Davis, anything?
Yes, sir. And that second sheet I handed out, everything else is exactly as we discussed yesterday.
Okay.
Council has seen. The only thing I added the 5,000 to the Y, 5,000 to each district rec.
I have a question, please.
Ms. Floyd?
Okay. Ms. Davis.
Yes, ma'am.
The $2,000, how much came out of District 1's account? Rec account?
500.
And the other 2,500 came from where?
District 5's recreation or special projects account.
Okay, okay. I think we need to take a look at that. Let me explain. The Y needs funds. Every year we give the Y money to help with the children. Okay, a council member suggested that we don't give the Y anything this year. The council member suggested he will, out of his rec fund, give the Y money. And what he was going to give, I was told $3,000. I asked that they put the Y back in the budget, the little $5,000, and I said, we can still give money out of our rec account to the Y, which will increase the amount they get. I give the Y $10,000 every year, okay? But what they did was they took money out of District 1's rec and District 2's rec, which made it $5,000, which is the same thing.
No, ma'am, that's correction. Took out of District 5. Not
District
2.
5. Well, no, 2 wouldn't do that. Well, District 5, okay, which is the same thing. The money is still not coming out of the general fund. The Y could have had a total of $10,000 if they would just leave it in the budget. when you take money out the district, out of your rec account and give it to the Y, you should be doing that anyway because it is a recreational fund. But not to do it, take the Y completely out of the budget, and you put the money in there for them, you cheating. You cheating the Y out of funds. And let me tell you something, okay? Every year I spend the rec money you give me for my district, I spend it wisely. I'm not broke by by December. I'm not broke. I use that money for children, for old people, for people who need recreational activities for a better quality of life. That's when I use that money. I don't spend it on the fire department. I don't spend it on other little nicety things around the county that has nothing to do with recreation. I don't do that. So yes, this year I transferred $10,000 over with everything else I did. And I did it because I've got a big thing coming up next year. If you had voted to give those who spend their money on everything else money because they don't have but $1,000 and cut anybody else out, you see what you would have gotten. Was that fair? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Graham, I just want to clear one point real quick. The Y is getting the same amount of money as it always gets. It's coming out of the general fund. Me and Mr. Wooten just decided to reduce ours to fund that. That's all it is out of that right there. But the Y is getting their money.
That's correct.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am,
Mr. Graham.
quick point.
Mr. Graham, he was next, and we'll go to you, Ms. Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, number one, we're sitting here trying to figure out how we're going to pay for everything we've got associated with this budget and keep the millage as low as possible as far as what we're going to have to go up on. Number one, the Y is a great program. However, Star Iva both has rec departments. The city of Belton has a rec department, and that's where my money from the rec account goes to the kids in that area, to the senior groups in that area, to the different activities. Another thing, speaking of the fire department in Homeland Park, which is in Miss Floyd's district, it's in Mr. Dunn's district, and also it's in my district. They put on an event July the 4th. It's not for the firemen, it's for the community. The rec account is set up to basically benefit the community. Now, whether or not it's recreation by bringing families out to celebrate the 4th, and enjoy a good time, watch some fireworks, have balloon bounce activities for the kids in the community. Last time I checked, that's still a rec program. Now, whether or not a council member decides to give that money toward that, that's their prerogative. But I mean, in the same respect, the account goes back, and from day one since I got on council, I've questioned why do we call it a rec account anyway? Because technically it's a slush fund. It's a fund for the, I've got the floor. Technically, it is a fund for the council members to be able to share some money throughout their district. The key there is that money is coming from the citizens in that district through a tax base, okay? So we're basically nothing more than having hands pass through. Some districts has more activities as far as rec programs. Just right off the top, I get $5,000 to each one of my rec programs before I do anything. Again, that's my choice on how I do that. People criticize us every meeting, seems like, on how we spend this money, when in the same respect, road paving is not meant to give to the free clinic either. And there was money taken from a basketball court in Homeland Park and realigned and given to the free clinic. I love the free clinic. I think it's a great program. It's very easy for us to sit up here and designate money to these volunteer organizations, these nonprofit organizations, when guess not, what? The money is not ours. We're doing tax-paying dollars. If your heart is so much into helping these volunteer organizations, which it should be, then share that money with your own checkbook, not with someone else's dollars. I question sometimes whether or not we should even have this rec account. We need to have a rec program for Anderson County for these kids to give them something to do in the summertime when they get out of school, when they get out of the smaller kids before they get into the programs at these school districts, as far as the middle school to high school. We need to have rec programs for them. It needs to be across the board for Anderson County, not for certain areas. The Y is a great program. The free clinic is a great program. Let none of this conversation put down any of the programs we support. But at the end of the day, we're responsible for what we're doing with our tax dollars. We're still questioning on whether or not we're going to go up a millage or 2 millage or whatever. We just voted not to do but half of the pay salary. And the reason why is because we didn't want to go up on millage. So I scratch my head and say, well, should we go up on a millage to cover some of this other stuff? When yet we're sitting here trying to determine whether or not we're going to go up $5,000 a piece for the rec accounts that I disagree completely with. Could we use it? Absolutely. I ran out of my money this past year because I gave it back to my communities. But giving us $5,000 more when we're putting it back on the taxpayers that we're literally talking about having to go up a millage on. Is that being conservative? Is that being efficient with our money? Absolutely not. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Wilson.
Very quickly, while the Y and all these other programs are awesome and they do a lot of good, it must be pointed out it's commendable that several districts are using their rec funds to help the indigent children have an opportunity at the Y. But a lot of people pay, I know I had to pay for my child $90 a month. So it's not free. And I hope we'll get back on course here now. I don't think it's appropriate to have another $5,000 funds that, though my district could certainly use it. I think our primary mission, isn't it roads, infrastructure, public safety? I think we're getting off course here. Thank you.
I make the motion that we adopt this sheet that Ms. Davis give us, including, this is the one for all the changes we went over with yesterday, excluding the $5,000 increase on the rec thing. That'll be voted on separate.
Okay.
Ms. Wilson, second. Any discussion on my amendment? All in favor of the motion, show hands. All opposed? So the motion carries. Mr. Waters, Mr. Allen, Mr. Dunn, Mr. Graham. You didn't? You voted against? Mr. Wooten? In favor. Ms. Wilson in favor. Mr. Graham opposed. Ms. Floyd opposed. Now, make the motion to increase the recreation account or the special purpose district $5,000. Put that in form of a motion. Then I pulled that out, so it's on the table. So we need to vote on it and dispose of that. I make the motion one way or the other. We need to get this settled. So I add the $5,000 to the increase in the rec account. Put that in form of a motion.
May I ask a question?
Give a second first, then we'll go to question.
Okay.
Get a second. Second, Mr. Allen and Ms. Floyd.
Okay. Mr. Harmon, tell me about the rec fund account. What does our code of ordinance say about the rec account?
Well, our code says that it calls it a procedure for recreation fund appropriations. That's in section 2-6.
I hear you well. I'm sorry. I really don't. I really can't.
Our code section on recreation on the recreation fund is code section 2-6. It's entitled Procedure for Recreation Fund Appropriations. We do not have a definition in that section of what constitutes recreation, but we do have a procedure that's set out in some detail about how the funds are allocated, that they go to a non-profit status entity that makes the request. Then we have a procedure whereby the clerk to council gets receipts for those funds to ensure that they're spent in the way that the council appropriates the funds. That's a brief outline of that section of the code.
Okay, but does the code say anything about, I think that you mentioned this one time. Did the code say anything about the recreation fund should be spent on recreation purposes?
No, it just talks about any entity requesting an appropriation of recreation funds from any county council district shall make a written application. That, and then it goes on the way I outlined it.
Okay, all right. But I guess the code assumes that we should know what recreation is. We know riding a horse is recreation. It's recreation account. But buying a fire truck is not a recreation account. We should know that some other things, I just don't want to call any names right now, but we should know that other things that we give money to are not recreation account. It could have been recreation at the beginning, but when it ended up, it wasn't recreation. We should know that. I think that you said one time that you had a problem with that, and that you were going to find some directions on the recreation fund. Now, you can call it a slush fund. Some of it is being used as a slush fund, but District 2 doesn't use it as a slush fund. It's money that I need for my kids in District 2. My kids, the green ones, the yellow ones, the white ones, the black ones, and the blue ones. Money that I need for my kids in my district to provide them recreational opportunities that they would not ordinarily get. You call yours a slush fund. I call mine recreational fund. And I'm prepared to vote on it.
Any more discussion? The motion is vote on increasing the recreation fund $5,000 or not. All in favor of increasing it $5,000, show of hands.
I'm not surprised.
All opposed? So the motion is defeated. Ms. Floyd was in favor. Opposed was Mr. Waters, Mr. Allen, Mr. Dunn, Mr. Graham, Mr. Wooten, and Ms. Wilson. I make the motion, amend the budget with this second sheet that Ms. Davis has passed out to us on cuts. And in voting for this and voting for the budget, what this is entailed, the only thing will be a $1 million tax increase. No ifs, ands, buts about it.
What did you say about the $1 million tax increase? I'm sorry.
If you vote on the budget with these changes, it will equate to a $1 million tax increase, Ms. Floyd.
Okay, so that means taxes will go up.
That's right,
Okay,
$1
good.
million. Understand? More than welcome. Ms. Wilson, you have a question? I thought you asked for the floor. I'm sorry.
I just wanted to make a few comments.
Go ahead.
This has been a tough budget because we've had the health insurance and the salary adjustments and all to make. And it's very important. We've been able to take the federal grant at the airport was curtailed to 100 feet wide, so we had to dip into our fund balance to go 150 feet wide to keep the airport going, and we were blessed with funding for a new airport terminal, so we did dip into fund balance to make those accomplishments. This budget has the $500,000 plus financial accounting software that we've desperately needed for a number of years. The vehicle replacement program through a $5.3 million capital lease deal will be helpful. I choked when I read it, but I think it will finally make more uniform the annual replacement needs instead of having to cough up hundreds of thousands unexpectedly. We've been kind of kiting checks on that one. The pay raises for many underpaid employees will finally be accomplished. It's staggered over 2 fiscal years, which if you think about it in calendar years, it's less than that. There's been increases in retirement cost. We've had an incredible increase in health insurance cost. Mr. Allen and others have been touring other counties trying to come up with ways to make our health insurance work better for our employees and hopefully not cost quite as much. We, in our county, actually give the best benefit package of anyone around. I think Arthrex, the private industry, coming in and will be the only one that supersedes us in that department. Our increase in debt service The $17 million special source revenue bond goes to sewer upgrades, building out lines that need to be put into place very badly, and replacing lines. We finally have some paving money. We had zero in our current budget year for paving. Zero. I don't think you have to look very far to see streets and roads that desperately need attention. Mr. Burns indicated to us that the Transportation Committee is going to add this year $1.9 million toward roads needs, and we have $1.5 million in our budget for roads. So that'll give us $3.4 million for roads, which we haven't had in about, I guess, 2 or 3 years now. It's a drop in the bucket. We still have a long ways to go. We're doing this mostly through a $5 million roughly increase in the value of the mill in our county, and using about $8.3 million of fund balance. I still think we could have squeezed some dimes and dollars a little bit tighter so that we wouldn't have to do a 1 mil increase, but at least we're down to something that's workable. And yes, we have had to absorb a lot of needs that were not done for decades because of priorities not being what they are now. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I guess from my standpoint,
Mr. Woods.
I just want to make one clarification. I initially said that I would take care of out of my rec account more for the YMCA in an effort to cut $3,400 out of the general fund. I regret that caused so much consternation, because it was just an attempt to help, because I'm a big fan of the Y and I wanted to do more. So however that shakes out is okay with me. From my standpoint in looking at the budget, one of the things that concerns me, and I don't want to oversimplify the budget because it's a large one and there's a lot going on with it, but you know, I was at QT on the way over here and there's 2 officers in there, and they were talking about the training that they were starting this summer for school safety. And well, with someone with young kids in this environment that we found ourselves in the country, I don't believe it's the school district's sole responsibility for school safety. I think it's county, I think it's city, I think it's all hands on deck. We got to do whatever we can to help with school safety. And that's one thing I am encouraged that this budget includes. It's going to be helping the sheriff's department, who's come to us and said, hey, we got a plan for this. And I want to make sure that's in there. That's very important to me. I agreed with Ms. Floyd that if I was a worker, I wouldn't want my pay raise over 2 years. I'd want it now. But the reason I went and voted with the rest of the council is because our finance lady said we have to do 2 more mills to increase it. And I don't think that's possible tonight. I don't think we have the votes to do that tonight. If they can find a way to do it without the 2 mil increase, I'll be #1 for it, because I know money means something to people, and people work hard for it, and they deserve to be appropriately compensated. So if 2 years is the best we can do, that's the best we can do, and I regret that I can't do it in 1 year. But for me tonight, if we're making our best effort to take care of our people, and I think we are, and I'll be the first one to try to find another way to take care of them faster. And this school safety thing for me is got to be a priority in the forefront. And if this millage increase helps school safety, then I think it's something that's the right thing to do, and that we're obligated to do.
Thank you,
Mr. Chairman,
I have a
Graham.
I just wanted a couple of comments as well toward the budget. First and foremost, Ms. Rita and your staff, I greatly appreciate all the hard work and the many questions that you answered on my behalf, and I'm sure the other council members are as well. But we definitely appreciate you guys putting this budget together, bring it before us. Just a couple of things on the budget. I am not for a tax increase. That should be the last thing we do, and that's part of the reason. I guess on the rec account, prime example, as council members, I think it's our duty not to increase something that we do have control over when we're fixing to have to go up on a millage. So, I mean, that's the very reason I supported not doing that. I think it'd be great to have $5,000 more in my budget as far as for my district for the rec account. It's not feasible this year, especially when we're turning down an opportunity of giving our employees a full salary adjustment that they so much deserve, and we're only doing it a half at this year and half next year. The other thing on that, something I want the employees to realize, that adjustment has nothing to do with the cost of living raise that you would receive next year or nothing like that. That adjustment is in place, and it's strictly based on the study that was presented to us from the group that we hired for that. So even though you're going to get increase this year and an increase next year, next year there might be a cost of living involved in it or whatever. That's two separate functions on that. So I want you to understand that. That's something that's already entitled to you. We just cannot afford to do it at one time. It's just that simple without doing a millage increase. And while Anderson County is doing great right now with economic development, jobs, people's getting on their feet and has good paying jobs that literally lifestyle, changing their families' ability to provide for themselves. So I mean, we're having major impacts across Anderson County. We can't slap a continued tax burden on them. The other thing, it's very important as far as the SROs and for the school districts and for everyone to realize, just like Councilman Wooten stated, that the SROs is being paid for by the school district. However, we are still responsible for paying for their vehicles, paying for their equipment that they're having to have. So that's an added cost to the Sheriff's Department. Again, I'm going to toot Sheriff McBride and Mark's horn again. I mean, you guys have done great by trying to curb y'all's cost in and reel some of your expenses in. But as council, we feel it is very important that we support this project. Can we afford to put the SRO in there at no cost to the school district? Absolutely not. But we can partner with these school districts, which is what the Sheriff's Department has done, to ensure our children is safe in Anderson County. Guys, we've done had the wake-up call. It's happened here in Anderson. We have no choice. And you look at the different factors that across the board with this budget, we have no option but to go up a mill to sustain this and continue moving Anderson County forward. Mr. Chairman, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Chairman?
Ms. Floyd.
Okay. First of all, I think that we could have made other decisions. I think that when we refused to have a budget workshop, that we hurt ourselves. When we refused to get together to work things out as a team, as a committee, everybody up here except me voted against a budget workshop. I want you to take the time to ask them why. What was the harm in having a budget workshop? I honestly believe that if we had gotten a chance to get together, we could have worked out a way where we could have gotten the salaries this year. I feel honest down to my soul, to my 19 years experience, I feel that we wouldn't have had to have this millage increase. We would have worked it out. I've seen it done, had it done, did it. So I know what I'm talking about. It didn't have to be this way. With the help of our department heads, our administrator, and the other members, with some sort of, well, I won't go there, but I know we could have done. I have that much faith in this system. Rather than the first thing you do, you raise the taxes. You cut this out. You don't do that. It could have worked. We have always been responsible for seeing that the law enforcement have what they need. There have not been a day on council, a year on council, that we didn't see, we didn't give the law enforcement officers what they need. When they needed extra help, we gave them their own millage. When they needed more money, we gave them the extra money that they needed. There have never been a time. So it's not like, oh, this is brand new, this is something that we're just starting to know. We have always done that. I feel that we're not working together. In fact, I don't think I have ever been a part of this council since they came on 2008, because they came on with a vengeance, especially against me, because I was left over from the old school. But that was all right too. I am here. I am here. I cannot be bullied. I cannot be turned around. And I won't let you block me. You can tell me I'm wrong, and I will listen to you. You can't hurt me. I'm a child of God. He put me here. I think that we're putting a lot of excuses on now. We could have, that we wish we did. No. No. The $5,000 for the recreation fund, we haven't had an increase since in the late 1980s. We have not had an increase in the rec fund. But yet the population goes up, the children come more, we bring in more people, we bring in more children. We don't have a recreational program. I say, take all the money and let's do a recreational program for Anderson County that's going to benefit all children. That's what I say. But they haven't done it. They won't do it. I have one other thing that I want to say, but I need to ask a question first.
Go ahead.
Are we going to go into executive session?
On the agenda right there, Ms. Floyd, executive session, item number 13.
Okay. In that executive session, are you going to talk about that pay raise?
Yes, ma'am.
Are we going to vote on the budget before we go into that?
We fixed to vote on the budget, Ms. Floyd.
Beg your pardon?
We fixed to vote on the budget. It's on the floor right now. That's what you're supposed to be talking about.
Okay. Then let me talk about this. They're going to vote on tonight. There are 20 people in Anderson County that are making more money than they are supposed to make. They are above their pay grade. They are above their pay level, what they're supposed to be making. They're not at the bottom. Wherever they're supposed to be, they are above that. Folks, tonight, they have voted already and committed to bring it to you that they're going to raise those people $1,000. Each one of those people that are making more money, that's above their pay raise, are going to get an increase of $1,000. I have begged for an increase of money for those who are working but are still on the poverty level. They said no. They're going to give them $3,000, but still, they will still be on the poverty level. But those who are making more money than they're supposed to make are going to get another $1,000 raise. Oh, yes. Yes. I'm not a mean person. I just believe in justice, liberty, justice, and fairness for all. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, may I make a quick comment? I'm one of them holdovers from 2008. Secondly, District 2 has almost $10,000 to carry forward on recreation.
Sure did.
The other thing, just for clarification's sake, the updated budget that we were provided yesterday indicated an increase of the 2 mills. So instead of 83.7 mills, which is 2 mills above the 81.7, we're now looking at 82.7. That's correct, right? Okay, the other item, how do we delineate out the one-time payments to the employees who've been overpaid all these years? I just don't think that I can support that.
You can ask to pull it out, or make a motion to pull it out, Ms. Wilson, and vote on it separately, and that's your prerogative.
Okay, may I make that motion at this point?
Mr. Chairman, you've got one amendment on the floor.
That's right. We got one amendment. We got one. Well, she can make add to this amendment because that's where this money's in this amendment.
Yes.
So she can pull that out.
Pardon? Okay, I would like to make the motion that those employees that were determined to have been overpaid for many years, as it appears, and they're certainly valuable people, but it doesn't seem appropriate when they've been paid more all these years. It's really not good for morale, from my perspective, and I've heard that from some other county employees too. I think at this point that should be set aside. I don't think we need to do that, so I'd make the motion that those employees who've been overpaid that were delineated in the Siegel Waters report continue on as they are, but not get the extra payment.
Make that form a motion. Mr. Wilson makes the motion. You second it. Now discussion. We want to clarify. Go ahead.
I just saying, what's the rationale for that from the personnel committee?
Well, just I think, and I'll let them each one of them talk. I think the thing is because it's a little bit of overstatement. It ain't employees been grossly overpaid for years to come. I don't. One of them hasn't been working with the county but a couple of years. He was hired took a deduction in salary to come work for the county. Very valuable service of it. Working for the morale, I think they ought to get something. That was the morale. Everybody ought to get something. There was several of them on that way. I guess things started out at 20, it's down to 7. So it's not 20. It's
So
7.
Okay.
But if it can be 7, 7. Right, Mr. Davis, 7? That's right.
That's right.
It's a one-time thing.
Right,
It's
excluding
not
elected.
a pay raise, and it's a bonus, but it's one time. That's what it's for. There's several employees, it's just like the one position, when Baxter come out, I would argue with that study all day long that they don't, this person's value is to the county, and the training expertise, and has probably saved us millions of dollars in the county, and got us millions of dollars. That's where some of it's coming up. And that's just one of the 7.
Okay.
Well, that's what makes a study like this one difficult to decipher, because we have certain needs that certain employees meet that are very valuable, more so than perhaps, and it needs to be acknowledged that way. So that, I'm trying to think of how to describe it, but that makes it very difficult for those of us in council to pass muster on that, because it's a blanket type exercise, and that's not really right either. All right, so we've gotten it down from 20 to 7?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I was not aware of that.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I think you need a little more information. It was 20 at one time, but they went over the list again, and they found out that a lot of people on that list were, Ms. Davis, I'm gonna let you tell it, please. Where's
I'm
Ms.
sorry,
Davis?
6. It went off 6.
Well, Ms. Davis told me that the list went down because they had some police officers on there. They had some state people on there who have to be paid what the state say they had to be paid, and they had, but they whittled it down from 20 people to 7 people.
6.
And we excluded elected and appointed.
Okay, now how did it get from 7 to 6?
Maybe I counted inappropriately, ma'am.
But you showed me 7.
I don't have the list before me, ma'am, but
Okay,
it
but
was
the
6
day-
or 7.
The day that I had, the day you gave me the list, it was 7 people on that list, but I concede. I won't argue the point until I have the list in front of me. But anyway, that's how it got down from 20 to whatever.
Voting on
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Allen.
what's going to happen, what happens to the other 14 then that were taken off? Are they getting nothing, or are they going to go back and get
They,
a pay raise?
I think 6 or 7 of those are state, they managers positions.
Okay.
So they mandated by the state what that is.
But
That's been mixed in the thing to start with.
yeah, okay, so we started with 20. Now there's 6 on the list.
Yes, sir.
The other 14 are
employees of the magistrate and other elected
And they're
officials.
going to have to be given a pay scale per what the state?
The magistrate is per state statute, correct.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. All right.
All in favor of Ms. Wilson's motion of excluding the ones over for the $1,000 one-time bonus? All in favor of Ms. Wilson? Go ahead. Y'all got something to say?
I do. As far as only 6 people, Ms. Wilson, I just want to clarify your motion. Your motion is not to do anything for the employees?
Those that have been due should be overpaid.
For those 6. Ms. Wilson's motion, Ms. Floyd second. Any more discussion? So we're talking about 6 people not getting a one-time bonus, $1,000. All in favor of Ms. Wilson's motion, show of hands. All opposed? So the motion is defeated. Mr. Allen, Ms. Floyd, Ms. Wilson in favor, Mr. Wooten, Mr. Graham, Dunn, and Mr. Waters opposes. Now back to the original amendment. All in favor of it, show of hands.
Of it, would you please state the whole thing?
We're losing track.
The second sheet, in favor of the second sheet of the cuts, to bring it down. That Ms. Floyd give us, that Ms. Davis give us a while ago.
Okay, which sheet is that now? Let me make sure I'm looking.
No, that was the first sheet. That's already been voted on. That's already been voted on.
That's right.
But you said
Which sheet is that? Is that the,
One with the cuts on it, Ms. Wilson.
pardon?
One with the cuts on it. The cuts,
Okay,
the deductions, staff's recommendations.
the pluses and one's the minus.
Yep.
Okay, this is the minus.
Yep. Deduction of a meal.
Do you know what?
Any more discussion? All in favor of the amendment, show of hands.
The chairman.
Yes, ma'am.
Please hold up a minute until we can get this thing together. Find out where we are. You know, we just got this tonight.
All in favor of the motion, show of hands. All opposed? Abstentions? So the motion carries with Mr. Waters, Mr. Allen, Mr. Dunn, Mr. Graham, Mr. Wooten, Ms. Wilson in favor, Ms. Floyd abstains.
Mr. Chairman, I had to abstain because I don't understand this.
I understand.
Didn't get this until we got here. We've been talking, and I've been
Yes,
talking.
you have. Yes, you have.
But I don't even understand this, so I refuse to vote on something I understand.
Now we might go back to the entire budget. All in favor of everything together, show of hands. All opposed? All abstentions? So the motion carries. Mr. Waters, Mr. Allen, Mr. Dunn, Mr. Graham, Mr. Wooten in favor. Ms. Floyd opposes. Ms. Wilson abstains. Moving on, item number C, 2018-017, ordinance authorizing the execution and delivery in fee in lieu of a tax agreements by and between Anderson County, South Carolina, and companies known to the county at this time as Project Avocado, with respect to certain economic development property in the county where such property will be subject to certain payments in lieu of taxes. This will be a public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak to this, please state your name and district, address the chair, please. None at all. Seeing here none, public hearing will be closed. Have a motion to move this forward.
So moved.
Motion, Ms. Wilson. We'll have a second by Mr. Graham. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, show of hands. Opposed, like sign. So the motion carries unanimously.
Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I ask for a recess, please.
Okay, we can get through this next thing right here, Ms. Floyd, then take it right quick. We'll have one right after this. We're going on to item number D, 2018-022, ordinance to amend section 38-69, certificate of compliance required. Use from the certificate requirements of the Anderson County, South Carolina Code of Ordinance provide for exception when a existing residential structure is placed with a residential structure. This is being replaced. This one we talked about, we had two meetings on this. This come about when district had removed an older mobile home and couldn't build a house back there. So I put this will be a public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak to this, please state your name and district, address the chair. Hearing and seeing none, public hearing to be closed. We have a motion to move this forward.
So moved.
Motion, Mr. Wilson. Have a second, Mr. Waters. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, show of hands. All opposed? Abstentions? So motion carries. Moving on to item number 10. Oh, we're going to a recess. I'm sorry, going to recess. A quick recess. We'll be back in a minute.
Oh, someplace. What I got? Yeah.
You got your mic?
It's on. Yeah. You are. Yeah. Time I call the meeting back in order. We're moving on. Moving on to 10A, ordinance second reading, 2018-021, ordinance amending the zoning map to rezone plus or minus 64.17 acres.
May I make the motion that we pass this?
Ms. Wilson makes a motion, we move this forward for third reading. Have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Graham. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, show of hands. On item number 11, there is no ordinances for first reading. Moving on to 12A, 2018-033, a resolution accepting certain road right-of-ways from the SCDOT in connection with South Carolina Highway 252 for the purpose of operating and maintaining a portion of relocating existing county roads as part of the project. Mr. Burns, Mr. Farmer, want to touch this? Anything?
Mr. Chairman, this is an intersection where the DOT did some road work and they had to acquire some right-of-way from the county to do the work in that intersection, and now this is DOT giving that right-of-way back to the county for the county portion of that road.
We have a motion to move this forward.
So moved.
Motion, Mr. Waters, second, Mr. Allen. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, show of hands. Those light signs, so motion carries unanimously. This time we have a motion to go in executive session for personnel matters.
May I make the motion, Mr. Chairman, that we go into executive session for personnel matters, Clemson Research Park contractual matters, County Square contractual matters, and Pickens 2TI property contractual matters.
Have a motion, have a second.
Second.
Second, Mr. Graham. All in favor of the motion, show of hands. All opposed? Abstentions? The motion carries. Step right back here.
That's it.
Mr. Chairman, may I make a motion that we come out of executive session having received information regarding contractual matters with no votes taken? Thank you.
Motion, Ms. Wilson, come out of executive session. We have a second.
Second.
Second, Mr. Waters. All in favor of the motion, show of hands. Those light signs, motion carries. Now we're moving on.
Need to make some motions?
Yes, sir, Mr. Allen.
You want me to go ahead?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Having come out of executive session and received personnel information, I'd like to make the motion that county council approve the pay rate for the clerk to council as discussed in executive session. I put that in the form of a motion.
Second.
I have a motion, second, Ms. Wilson. Want to make things, she has just become our full-time counsel. She's been a little over a year now, and when we done this, we said we'd reevaluate this. All in favor of the motion, show of hands. All opposed? So the motion carries. Mr. Waters, Mr. Allen, Mr. Dunn, Mr. Graham, Wooten, Ms. Wilson in favor, Ms. Floyd opposes. Mr. Allen?
All right, I have one more motion to make, and this is a motion that county council approve the award of request for proposal for employee benefits, consultant, and advisory services to Palmetto Insurance and Southeast Insurance Group. Several groups were looked at by a county committee, and this group came out number one on the list as being somebody that could guide us in determining a new health plan for the county employees.
We have a motion.
Chairman,
I'm sorry, Ms. Wilson.
I did business with the principal of that company last year, and it seems appropriate for me to disclose and recuse.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. We have a motion.
That was a motion.
Motion, Mr. Allen. We have a second.
Second.
Second, Mr. Waters. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, show of hands. Those light signs, so the motion carries. Ask Ms. Wilson to step back in. Anything else, Mr. Allen?
Had, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Graham?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to bring forth in form of a motion to authorize the county administrator to enter into an agreement in principle with the City of Anderson regarding conveyance of the Clemson Advanced Materials Center to Innovate Anderson, the city's participation in the county CVB, and the city's participation in the county square development as discussed in executive session.
Have a motion, Mr. Graham, second, Ms. Wilson. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, show of hands. Those light signs, motion carries unanimously. Mr. Graham?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd also like to bring in form of a motion to authorize the county administrator to enter into negotiation with Peach Properties regarding the county square development as discussed in executive session.
Second.
Motion, Mr. Graham, second, Ms. Wilson. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, show of hands. Motion carries unanimously. Mr. Graham, anything else?
No, sir.
Ms. Wilson?
Mr. Chairman, may I make the motion to authorize the county administrator to enter into a contractual agreement with a broker to sell the Pickens TTI property owned by Anderson County, as we discussed in executive session.
Motion, Ms. Wilson. Have a second. Second, Mr. Waters. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, show of hands. Those light signs, the motion carries unanimously. Anything else? Anyone have any appointments? You see them, move on to request for council members. Mr. Waters?
Yes, I'd like to appropriate $250 to the WLS Foundation, and I bring that in the form of a motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Ms. Wilson, second. All in favor of the motion, show of hands. Carries. Mr. Waters? Anything else?
That's all.
Mr. Allen?
Mr. Chair, I have two. I'd like to do them together here. I'd like to do $250 for the WLS Foundation and also $250 for the Anderson Jets Track Club. And I'll put that in the form of a motion.
Second.
Discussion. Mr. Wilson, seconds. Have any discussion? And all in favor of the motion, show of hands. Anything else, Mr. Allen?
That's all.
Ms. Floyd?
I don't have any at this time.
Mr. Graham?
I don't have any at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Wooten?
I put in form of a motion $250 for Anderson Jets Track Club and also $250 for the WLS Foundation.
Second.
Any discussion? Wilson seconds. All in favor of the motion, show of hands. Right, so the motion carries unanimously. Anything else, Mr. Wooten?
No, sir.
Like you, Ms. Wilson. District 5, I'd like to request $250 to WLS Foundation and $1,000 to the Jets Club. Second, Ms. Wilson. All in favor of the motion? Moving on, administrator's report.
Nothing at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Wait a minute, I have a question. It said that the report would have the payday. No, my mistake. Please take that off.
Citizens' comments. Please, Mr. Harmon calls your name, state your name and district, address the chair, and you got 3 minutes.
Mr. Chairman, we have one citizen signed up, Elizabeth Fant.
Elizabeth Fant, District 3. I do want to say, as I have said, I think in the last meeting, that the meetings that you all do and committee meetings are a lot of work. It's evident that you are accomplishing a lot. So when I say this business about the budget, I do not demean the work that you're doing. I think it's wonderful. However, the budget part needs to be plain and out front to say to people that it is a budget, that you're working on the budget. And as far as I can tell, looking at the agendas, it doesn't say anything about budget. It just talks about capital projects and this, that, the other. Second of all, Ms. Floyd is right. It's kind of hard to follow her information. I got also a cut sheet tonight. Rita, if you're still here, or whoever does these sheets, it would be advantageous if at the top you would put the date, you would write on there what it is, like this is a sheet of cuts, and for blank budget year. I mean, when this goes in my pile of all the stuff that I keep later on, I'll say like, well, what was it? So it's just a matter of informing people, letting them know so that they can keep track. There are some things on this cut sheet. Every year this happens. It's like last year actual, current budget, 6 months, department request, and then at the end a savings. It makes it look like we're saving a whole lot of money, but it's not really savings if you're asking for more than you need. I'm a little bit concerned that there are so many places on here where meals and food are listed under different categories. I added them up quickly, and it was about $52,000 just on food or meals. Now, sometimes a county council has meals, like when they're having a meeting at 12 o'clock and they have sandwiches. That okay seems reasonable. But I'll pick on the sheriff's department here. Sheriff's Department has down, let's see if I can find it, meals. Third reading, they're recommending $28,000. Administrator recommended $30,000. The third reading, they cut off $2,000. What does the Sheriff's Department need for 30,000 meals? I don't understand that. But it's not only the Sheriff's Department, it's a lot of places. And it's obvious that it's nice to have some of these amenities at different places, but is that really core services? I am going to agree with Ms. Floyd. The amount of people that we have in Anderson County now has increased. And I think the slush fund, or whatever you want to call it, the recreational fund, does need to be increased. And it could be...
Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Harmon. Anyone else?
No one else is signed up.
Thank you. Now, remarks from council members. Mr. Waters?
Yeah, could you check and see how much vacation I got built up? I tell you this, one good thing, this is my last budget. Looking forward to that. So y'all, next year y'all have to handle it without me. Appreciate all the kind words everybody's said to me. That's all I got, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Allen.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, just very quickly, I wanted to thank Ms. Davis and her finance staff. It's amazing the amount of numbers they can generate within a few minutes. I don't know how they do it, but keeping track of government government accounting and finance is a whole different animal, and I applaud them for what they do, because I know we drive them crazy asking for numbers a lot of times. So I just want to say thank you for the work you've done, and as well as all the council members too, in going over these things, and Mr. Burns and Mr. Harmon. So thanks a lot for that. That's all.
Mr. Allen, Ms. Floyd.
Happy Juneteenth Day. Today is June the 19th. Today is National Juneteenth Day. Who knows what I'm talking about? There's one person in here that knows. Okay, Juneteenth is the independent day in an American holiday that commemorates June the 19th, 1865, of the announcement of the abolition of slavery in Texas and the emancipation of enslaved African Americans through the southern states. Happy Juneteenth happy Juneteenth anniversary. We've come a long way, baby, but we have a hell of a long way to go. I also want to tell you that you guys did something tonight that I just think that I think that we should have spent more time on that budget. Number one, you gave people who was making more money than they need to be $1,000 more. Number two, you didn't do anything on the lower end. People who are already working in poverty, only thing you did was gave them a little higher poverty. The $1,000 would have gone a long way to help them and help us say that we don't have anybody in this council, in this county, working on the poverty level. The recreational account, your children lost. Your children lost. We haven't had a raise in that fund since the late 80s. Your children lost. You don't care, I know. You have been led. You have been led. I'm disappointed, but good times. You know what they say, the sun shines on everybody, on every dog. One day, new days are coming. I want to explain something to you. Yes, I took, the city was given $50,000 by District 2. It sat in the city's coffer for 3 years. They didn't touch the money. So I asked for it back, because if they couldn't use it in 3 years, then we could use it. It was my intention to use that money to put it in the park over at Wellington, which I thought was in my district, to build a basketball court after the people asked me to put one there because they remember having one when they were growing up in Homeland Park. So that was what I was going to do, until I was told I had to do something else before I put the basketball court there. So I just took the money away and I gave it to the, when I get overwrought, this happens to me. I gave it to the free clinic because they could use it. That's what I did. I gave it to the free clinic. I did it proudly because they were cut $30,000 from the state this year. $30,000 they lost. What were they going to do? So I just gladly, happily, eagerly gave it to the free clinic. We kept talking about the Y because the Y was what we were talking about. We weren't talking about any other recreation facility but the Y. So that's why the Y kept coming up. I think that was a big mistake, but I'm afraid that wasn't a vote for the Y. That was a vote against me. But anyway, I gave them the money. I have money left in my recreation account because I know how to manage and handle money. I won't be broke by December. I have a big project coming up next year that I needed to be prepared for. So what I did was I gave what was needed, what was asked for in the rec account that related to recreational activity, but I put aside some money in preparation for next year. That's called budgeting. That's called taking care of your money. That's called knowing how to handle money. And I can't be blamed because I know how to do that. Okay? That's about it.
Mr. Graham.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Reverend, Mr.
Graham.
Chairman, I'm going to have to take my leave now. I've had enough.
Ma'am, Mr. Graham.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just want to clarify something. The comment I made had nothing to do with the free clinic. What I get tired of week in and week out is fellow council members is criticized on the moves that they make on what they feel is best for our district. I'm sitting here right now looking at two council members that was recently elected, and I appreciate you guys coming tonight. I hate the meeting that's been extended so long, but that's part of the budget season, and you'll realize that. But I mean, at the end of the day, each council member has got to make the best decision for what they feel is right for their district. Each meeting, I come up here and, you know, we've had several comments about not having enough meetings, not having enough budget workshops or whatever. I'm telling you right now, and I appreciate your comments earlier, Ms. Fant, and I assure you, committees that we're having meetings next year, I will assure you that part of the chairman of that committee, it's their responsibility to ensure that that agenda is placed. And I assure you that you will be aware by the agenda that if a budget is being discussed, that's what's taking place. But what I would encourage each and every council member to do, instead of criticizing everybody else, take care of your own district and take care of Anderson County. Because at the end of the day, if Anderson County does not move forward, your district will fail. And we fight that battle every single day. So instead of worrying about pointing fingers and trying to bring everybody down and eye this and eye that, let's move Anderson County forward, because at the end of the day, that's what's going to make all of us to be able to give us the opportunity to live in a successful county. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Wooten.
Yeah, I want to thank everybody. Appreciate everybody's patience in the budget season. From my standpoint, I really try to enter meetings with the mentality of I neither go into a meeting looking to increase, neither do I look to go into a meeting to decrease, but just to objectively look at what we've been tasked to provide and are the services appropriate for the county and part of the core mission of what we've been charged to do. And as for the rec account, I have no problem taking it up $5,000. I just had a problem taking it up $5,000 in light of delaying payment to the employees next year. You know, and I know $40,000 is a small amount compared to that large amount, but just out of principle, it says something to the employees. Hey, we're not going to raise this if we're going to delay you. Had that been changed, I might have voted differently. In that regard, I'm very excited, and I thank Ms. Wilson for for the paving. I mean, we all supported it, but she was one that set that down early on and made that a condition. And I think the people of Anderson County expected that this year, and that was in the budget. I think that no tax increase has ever gone into lightly, but the items that we're spending on are appropriate items, and I think the folks will see it accordingly, and we'll do right by them. So I thank everybody for that, and appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Wooten. Ms. Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wonder if perhaps we took up some type of a zero-based budgeting effort where each department established their mission and then we developed a budget to accomplish that mission. It might save a little angst at the last day on third reading. I guess I've been called worse than a liar tonight, but I do want to point out that it really would be helpful for all of us to refer back to the Daniel report. And that's where our county engaged an auditor who came in and looked at specific areas where we didn't know what was going on in the budget. And our county had come perilously close to bankruptcy. The recession didn't help, but there was not even a debt service payment budgeted when our council of '09 came in of $500,000. Now that's a big problem. And there were many millions of dollars discovered in consulting, lobbyists, legal type contracts, real estate deals in the landfill and all that mess. We've moved well beyond that, and I'm very grateful for all the people in our county employee and my fellow council members in working hard, and especially Mr. Burns, to pull us through some rough times. And yeah, it's hard to overcome many, many millions of dollars lost, but we are making progress. And I thought it would be really neat to point out Mr. Simmons, who's always been so kind to come to our council meetings and ask about Highway 29. We're finally going to get a lot of attention in Highway 29. And it's all the way into town and all the way up toward the interstate. Secretary Christy Hall came and looked very carefully a couple of 3 months ago, and there have been other pots of money that were engaged too. So finally, between getting the bridge raised and all of the work around Cherokee Road, that's going to be accomplished. That's going to get really cranked up in 2019. So between 2019 and 2024, Highway 29 will be virtually unrecognizable. And I hope we can keep it looking attractive out there, because it's going to really invite a lot of development that blighted neighborhoods and underprivileged neighborhoods have not enjoyed. So that is good news. And thank you all, everybody, our new folks who've come to our meeting tonight, our solid, true citizens who show up, and everyone who works really hard. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. I want to recognize and thank Mr. Davis and Mr. Sanders for being here tonight. I don't want y'all to get all excited. We don't have as much fun every council meeting night, okay? But I do want to say that I want to thank the administrator and his staff for all the hard work they've done on this budget. Ms. Davis, especially you and your staff, for all the work and hard work y'all done and diligently. We worked up, I know you worked up late this afternoon on this budget. Not a budget that everybody's happy about, but I can assure you a few things. Public safety should be stronger and better in Anderson County because of this budget. We're getting a plan for replacement stuff, for capital stuff. I think it's setting it for we're taking care of our employees the best we can. And I don't, this is what really will bother me tonight. We sort of taking a thing of like a dirtying up something other that sure would be a good thing. This council took initiative to do a study, have a professional company come in that does this, grade us, to get us headed in the right direction. We done that. We said from the get-go we was going to do something. We wouldn't be able to do it all. And that's what we've done. We've done half of it. And some of them's going to get it all. It's just it's how it folds around and how it does, and very, very appreciative of that on county employees. Each and every one of you know we think very much of you. Appreciate the job you do. Can't say it enough. And unfortunately, you're not going to get rich working in the government. But we're going to try to do the best we can, take care of you, because we do very valuable part of the county. That's what makes our people, I've always said, what makes Anderson County great. And I don't care how many more budget workshops we'd had. You've got to do one of two things. Said tonight, never make no. You got to raise revenue. You got to cut spending. We've done a little bit of both tonight in this budget. But anybody starting down there, working all the way up, down here, y'all two gentlemen sitting in the audience, y'all get up here. It's free country. This thing's all about you make a motion. If it passes, it passes, it don't. And I think most of you make a good motion, people come up. But when you make a motion just to give somebody a pay, and they ain't got a way to pay for it, I've always said you got to either pay for, show how you're going to pay for something, show the details. That's what they're saying is, devil's in the details. So, Nat, I want to thank my fellow council members for going through this process, trying to, I've been criticized in the past, even before I got to be chairman, by having too many. I think Ms. Wilson can thank this, and Mr. Allen, for having too many budget workshop meetings. So, we go from one extreme to another. But anybody's got a right to come participate, listen, because I can assure you it wasn't that way years ago. Ms. Wilson can testify to that. And but I want to thank the council members for putting the few council members, the majority that puts Anderson County forward. It's not me. And sitting here, we talking about a $79 million budget tonight. General fund budget. And we spent over 10 minutes talking about $5,000 going to the YMCA, and they was getting fully funded what they was going to get. Instead of arguing about where it's coming from. I'll close on how smart that is. Thank y'all very much.